Donald Trump's birthday and his military parade is over, but the humiliation tour he is going on because of it seems like it'll never stop because, of course, Democrats have been condemning this parade for weeks, and Republicans just now started speaking out against it after the horrible humiliation it was. But so are members of our military after seeing what a failure Donald Trump put forth yesterday. We're going to get into it all and how Trump is melting down. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. And we are so close to 1 million. Now, before we can get into the general who slammed Trump over this failure of a parade, I want to start with some news that is really causing him to melt down this morning, and that's his historically bad polling.
Yeah, Kristen, some interesting numbers here. I think we'll start with this one. The bottom line we always ask here in this Decision Desk poll, do you approve or disapprove of how Donald Trump is handling his job as president? And it's 45-55. And we did take this same poll a couple months ago, and it was 45 approved, 55 disapproved back then. So no change. And by the way, this is a poll. It's a little different. It's an online poll. This is all adults, not just registered voters. But in this poll, consistent over the last couple of months. How about some more specific issues here? And you can see this has been the story of this version of the Trump presidency. His lowest marks continue to be on inflation, cost of living, trade and tariffs. Obviously high profile, his battles with those elite colleges, 43-56. This is interesting. On immigration and the border, slight majority approval for Donald Trump's actions, though we want to say not all of this poll was taken as these protests were playing out in Los Angeles. So still a bit of a question going forward how that shakes out. But again, we've seen stronger numbers for Trump on that area than every other area of his presidency so far. You could also take a look here. Elon Musk leaving the administration. Final verdict there. 44% call it a success. 56% say it was a failure or a partial failure. Then there's the standing of the two parties here. They look about the same. 44 favorable for Republicans, 43 for Democrats. What's interesting here, Kristen, is in Trump's first term, when we were taking polls of the two parties, the Democrats were consistently more popular than the Republicans. And it was an advantage that Democrats had heading into those first Trump midterms. You could see their standing was better than Republicans. Here we continue to see about equal standing in this poll for the two parties. And then I wanted to show you this. This is a bit of a sort of a bank shot one, but I think it may be interesting. We asked folks, what emotion do you feel here most when you think about Trump's actions as president? And look, furious, angry, dissatisfied. These are the negative emotions. That adds up to 52% here. Satisfied, happy, thrilled, 12, 8, 10. That adds up to 30%. So there's more negative emotion than positive emotion. Now, you could say it's easier to generate negative emotions than positive emotions.
And not only did Donald Trump wake up to bad poll numbers on his agenda, but also Americans disapprove of spending public funds to put on a military parade in Washington. Tens of millions of dollars were wasted so Donald Trump could throw himself a birthday parade that no one in D.C. wanted to show up to. But as I continue to reiterate, it's not just the wasteful spending on the parade. Some of those millions of dollars will be spent fixing the roads in D.C. that were torn up by Donald Trump's parades. Roads were still closed this morning. It just goes to show that Donald Trump's narcissism is an imposition on your life in a real and tangible way, no matter what. This is the chaos of the administration we live under, and it is the reason why people are so upset. And it is also the reason we saw a retired general slam Donald Trump this morning, calling out the humiliation of the failed parade. And I want to take a look at that right here. Colossal waste of time. Retired Army general disgusted after Trump parade. Donald Trump's Saturday parade honoring the 250th anniversary of the establishment of the U.S. Army, which coincidentally fell on his 79th birthday, fell flat with one former Army general who expressed his disgust on MSNBC on Sunday morning. The parade and following speech by the president, which was seen by a diminished crowd that reportedly started streaming out early, was panned on Saturday night, and opinions did not change overnight, as we see more from that retired general here.
It was a colossal waste of time, effort, and money. We don't need, that's not who we are. We don't do these kind of things. We don't march down the streets like that. We prove ourselves and our value as an army, our strength as an army, through our actions, not parades. That's something that dictators do. And I think the money that was spent, I mean, it's colossal when you think about it. $45 million is what the White House admits to. But this town was shut down for 3 days. It's still shut down out there. You can't get across the 14th Street Bridge, for instance. And you shut down the airport for 3.5 hours. You know, the tens of millions of dollars of inconveniences that were created. The town, Uber drivers are complaining. You know, the hotels have been shut down. I mean, you can't get around. And so there's a tremendous cost associated with that. We're going to have to fix all the roads, by the way.
Yeah, $16 million of the 45 is for the roads.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it was an incredible thing. And think about what we could do with that money if we had it instead. I mean, the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines out there, they need support. Donald Trump already stole $1 billion from Milcon, from military construction for the southern border. I mean, so there's barracks that are not being renovated. There's child care centers that are not being built. There are perks that soldiers and their families deserve. They're not going to be able to get because Donald Trump has stolen this money, essentially taken it and used it under priority. So I think that it was what happened yesterday, although wonderful to watch and behold, and it's great to see soldiers do well, it was a colossal waste of time, money, and effort.
A complete embarrassment. A complete embarrassment. And that is what Donald Trump, at this point, is seeking to do. I don't know if it's necessarily embarrass the military, but make it his. Donald Trump has worked so hard, especially in recent weeks, to politicize the military. And we just have to go back to the 2024 campaign, in which Donald Trump wasn't necessarily running on anything, but against this false narrative that he created that Joe Biden had politicized every aspect of our government, that the FBI, the IRS, the DOJ was all after Donald Trump, that the courts were coming for him, the judges were unfair. Joe Biden, he politicized it all by, appointing Merrick Garland, who didn't even do his job. That was such a political move by Joe Biden. But it is, in fact, Trump who has gone as far as he possibly can in politicizing everything in our government. Everything is either a stunt, theater, or to serve him. And it is why this quote from General Mark Milley still sounds so true today.
We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it.
We do not support kings in this country. There are no oaths to dictators. That is why it was so disappointed that so many service members had to march for Donald Trump on his birthday, and why the scary screening going on in our military to make sure that if you're joining, that if you want to serve this country first, you have to want to serve Donald Trump is very, very worrisome. We spoke to Congressman Seth Moulton about that exactly, him being a veteran, of course, and he spoke more to this morning, and I think what he said really made a lot of sense. I want to take a look right here.
I think the courts will show that it's unconstitutional the way that Trump has gone about this. We've never had an instance of Marines deployed against peaceful protests like this in the past. There was a time about 40 years ago, when Marines were deployed at the governor's request. I think about 80 people had already died in violent protests in L.A., and this is very different. The governor doesn't want the Marines to be there. But speaking as a veteran, I have to tell you, the Marines don't want to be there either. No one signs up to join the United States Marine Corps to attack protesters, to go against Americans on the streets of an American city. Just like no one signs up for the United States Army to march in a parade, by the way. That's not why you sign up to serve the country.
Congressman, the Marine deployment in L.A. is still just absolutely unbelievable to me that we're doing this. And I want to play some comments from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth this week in an exchange with your colleague, Ro Khanna.
Can you assure the American people on two things? You will respect any Supreme Court decision on this matter about whether the Marines are constitutional, and you will respect the district courts when they rule before the Supreme Court rules.
What I can say is we should not have local judges determining foreign policy or national security policy for the country.
So you're not willing to say you would respect those decisions?
What I'm saying is local district judges shouldn't make foreign policy for the United States.
Congressman, this is just incredible to me, just flouting the checks and balances of our government. What can Congress do here to have oversight over the most important duty of the commander-in-chief, and that's where he deploys troops?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's flouting the law, it's flouting justices. It's basically Pete Hegseth saying that he thinks that he and the administration are above the law. And that's always been the attitude of this administration. That's always been the attitude of Donald Trump. Politicize the military, use the military for their political goals, and show America that they are above the law. Congress, of course, should be stepping in and stopping this. But under Speaker Johnson in the House, I don't think we've seen a weaker Congress in maybe in American history in a very, very long time, because the Republicans simply refuse to take any accountability to fulfill their constitutional responsibilities to hold the executive in check. And it's dangerous for America. It's why it's so important that Democrats win the midterms, and why some of us are so focused on how to move the Democratic Party forward so that we can ensure victory and have some actual oversight from Congress. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the VA. I was on the phone with a Marine from my 2nd platoon earlier this week because he's having trouble getting seen by the VA, even though he has tumors growing all over his body, something that's not uncommon among Iraq and Afghanistan veterans because of the things we were exposed to overseas. Imagine what a difference just a few $100,000 could make in his care. DOGE has cut millions of dollars from the VA, tens of thousands of employees, many of whom were added, by the way, by the Biden administration to meet the demands of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. And so while you're right, $200 million might seem like a drop in the bucket when you're paying $13 billion a pop for aircraft carriers. When it comes down to taking care of our troops, it could be enormous. It could have an enormous impact. And this money has just been wasted on a spectacle.
This is a scary moment we are in, and it is why it is so important that Democrats don't just talk about their opposition to Trump, but what we do after to depoliticize the military, to root out those with loyalties to MAGA and a political ideology instead of to our Constitution. It is going to take so much work by the next Democratic president, please, next Democratic president, to root out the actual politicization that Donald Trump has done under this administration. We need to create a vision that is aspirational and works to fix entrenched corruption that is in Donald Trump's administration and the parts of our politics that are so broken. We need to speak in that language because it is not just Donald Trump who is doing it. We have seen this for some time. So let's be the ones to actually fix it. We're going to talk about this on the show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button because we are close or maybe at 1 million by the time you are watching this. You can leave a like on this video. You can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.